Let's pray. Almighty and ever-living God, ruler of all things in heaven and earth, hear our prayers for this parish family. Strengthen the faithful, arouse the careless, and restore the penitent. Grant us all things necessary for our common life, and bring us all to be of one heart and mind within your holy church. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Good morning. Happy day of Pentecost. I'm glad y'all are here. We're going to have an opportunity now to provide you with an update on some of what's been going on for actually a couple of years now, and how some things that have been part of the strategic plan are being implemented. So I'm very pleased to have Ben Park and Laurie Haffenreffer and Allan and Ivie, who are going to share a little bit with you about the work that they have been part of. Before I do that, though, I want to take a moment to thank a crew of people who came together apparently at the last minute, came off the bench, and did a really nice job today in putting together breakfast in an unexpected way. John Walker, Dee Dee Noker, who may not still be in here, and Matt Bouchard, who I know is in the back. So anyway, they came in and filled in at the last minute in an unexpected way. So thank you, John, Matt, and Dee Dee for all that you did. Also, just want to call your attention to something that's on your table today. International dinner that will be held here in the Undercroft next Friday evening. It's promises to be a wonderful evening of fellowship and food, and in support of refugees that are being attended to by Welcome Neighbor STL. So I hope you'll come and consider being a part of that for food and fellowship this coming Friday evening.
And you do have to purchase tickets in advance. You can't purchase.
Tomorrow's the last day to purchase tickets. There's a QR code on your table in the bulletin, or you can always call into the church office and we'll help you that way. All right. There you are, Ben. You want the microphone in the podium? Okay. Well, you have to have it because it's being recorded.
Oh,
so.
okay. Well, maybe that's a reason not to have it. Anyway, thank you, Reverend David. Good morning, everybody, and happy Memorial Day weekend. I came to church this morning with my dad and his brother, my two uncles, and my great uncle. Anyway, the greatest generation is alive and well, especially on this day. But at any rate, I love strategic plans. And the reason why I love them is that it's the only way I know that you can kind of orderly, efficiently change anything, any organization. And so I particularly like this strategic plan because it involved the entire church. There were hundreds of people involved. It worked, okay. Hundreds of people involved in the initial phase where you looked at your past, the present, St. Peter's, and the future, your visions for the future. And that started, as David said a couple years ago, March of 2023, and it went for several months, and then it rolled into visioning, and that formed another group. Gosh, I can't. I'm going to have to carry this thing. Can I do that? Okay. So once the plan, the original plan was complete, and I'll never forget that wall there where we had the history of the church. It was really amazing to me because we've just been here for 13 years. I mean, this church has been around for a long, long time. So that was really interesting. So after the initial effort was concluded, they rolled into three different committees: community, worship, outreach. And each of those committees had a vision, which is identified under their names there. And they worked for several months until about August of 24, early 24, concluded in August of 24. And then we began to talk about how we're going to implement this. And below the dotted line there is where we went with implementation. We took the community activity and split it into Welcoming Spaces Committee with Clark Davis leading that, Spec Connects with Peter Baumgarten leading that. And then the worship committee drove down into Worship Experiences Committee. I'm leading that. And the outreach committee pretty much stayed as it was and went right straight into Outreach Steering Committee with Allan and Ivie leading that. We broke community up into two organizations there because it took a special skill, we thought, to work on campus development, the master plan for our facilities and our campus. That's a unique capability. And Clark Davis had done that in the past, and I think, Laurie, you were involved in it too. So we had a skill set that made it much easier to do that activity. So we split that out. What else did I want to say about this? So implementation, then we had formally began in May of 25 with a congregational meeting where we announced our approach. And we've gone for about a year now in implementation. And I have to tell you, one of my beliefs is that implementation is the last phase, and it's rarely done. A lot of people develop these beautiful strategic plans and they never implement them. And so I've always been zealous about trying to implement a strategic plan. And I thought, gee, this is really going to be easy. But let me tell you, it is really a difficult thing, but it's also the most important thing you can do, as far as I'm concerned. Once you've created that strategic plan, you got to implement it. So with that, I'm going to turn the mic over to Laurie, who's going to speak on behalf of Clark Davis.
I am. I'm going to put this
You're gonna,
thing back in here. I am not.
that.
Thank you. I'm Laurie Haffenreffer. I'm not Clark Davis. Clark is out of town for the holiday weekend and asked me to stand in for him. He is the chair of the welcoming committee. See if I can go. So first and foremost, I'd like to thank these very important people who served on our committee and helped support this effort. And I'd equally like to thank all of you, because without your participation in the 2-year process, we wouldn't be here today to summarize where we've been and where we're going. So I'm very grateful to all of these people. And as you can see, some of them have an asterisk, and I will tell you later about those people, but they are acting to help find the architectural firm that will best fit. One of the first goals we had was to come together and see how we were defining welcoming spaces. And as Ben showed in his slide, we began with the mission statement, which then broke down to 3 committees and ultimately to 4 working committees, each of whom would create their own goal from which to proceed to have a very specific plan for implementation. The welcoming committee's work was to gather information that will become the focus of a master plan, particularly in how the campus and our buildings will function. One of the first things we did as a committee was define what we mean by welcoming spaces. For our purposes, we focused on interior and exterior areas of the campus: parking lots, landscaping, office and classroom spaces, education spaces, gathering spaces, as well as the little building and the playground. For our purposes, we did not include the sanctuary or Grace Chapel. Those spaces were covered, don't need a lot of change anyway, but they were covered by the worship committee. I know that many of us have talked about the narthex and how we can improve the narthex as a welcoming space, and that will certainly be a focus of whatever evaluation architects or we have in the master plan. So that tells a little bit more about what our goals were and what we defined as welcoming spaces. Please throw your hand up if you have any questions about anything on the slides. Because St. Peter's sits on such a prominent corner of Warson and Ladue, our guiding goal was simple: to ensure that our campus reflects the warm and welcoming spirit of this parish, and to encourage both parishioners and the broader community to use and enjoy these spaces throughout the week. To begin our work, the committee toured the interior and exterior areas of the campus. And then last fall and winter, members of the committee interviewed clergy, staff, and lay leaders to better understand their needs and priorities. The next two slides are going to summarize the ideas and concerns that emerged from all of these conversations, along with the information that we gathered from the 24-25 parish strategic planning sessions. These materials will all be shared with the architectural firm that is ultimately selected by the committee. Questions? All right, moving on. When we first met with our consultant, Bill, one of the things that he recommended to all of the committees was to come up with a quick win and a long-term goal. So our quick win has been signage. And I'm happy to report that it is well in the works. We will have new signage expected to be installed this fall, and those may be adjusted as future renovations take place. And we also anticipate the cost of that signage will be included in the current year church budget.
Excuse me.
Yes?
When you say signage, what specific, are you talking about inside?
Both interior and exterior. So the exterior will focus on parking spaces, accessible parking, where the elevator is in the rear of the building. So a little bit about all the angles of the campus. Interior, it will be directional signs to classroom spaces, to offices, to whatever other signage needs to be, the little building. So there's an example of what exterior might look like and what interior might look like. Does that answer your question? Okay. So this brings us to the next exciting step, a master plan. So how do we define a master plan? I would caution you, do not think of it as an architectural plan. It is a plan that takes all of the committee's works, puts them together, and gives them to professionals to evaluate how our thoughts, our dreams, our hopes fit into the space that we have. That's a little bit about the timeline that we're looking at right now. So the first step of the committee was to narrow down to 3 architectural firms, which we have done, and we will be interviewing those 3 in the beginning of June. The interviews are going to be broad in scope, and they are not based on specific needs as yet, but we're going to be looking for the best fit, a firm with whom we can create a relationship based on mutual understanding of the church, our history, as well as our future. The selections committee's goal is to present that firm, the recommendation for the firm, to the vestry on June 16th. Once the firm is selected and the vestry has approved that selection, the summer months will begin by creating a master plan that we hope to present to the vestry in the fall of 2026. Currently, about $30,000 is set within the 2026 operating budget to cover the cost of that comprehensive plan. Please understand that number is a little fluid. Toward the end of 2026, we anticipate that the vestry will begin their work on implementing a capital campaign for 2027. No hard ones? Yes?
Two things. I didn't hear storage, that kind of, basic functionality. And then the other one is just my experience is if you can't get to the offices or downstairs if you're handicapped from this side.
Very, very, thank you, Dudley, for bringing both of those up. Yes, so when looking at interior spaces, all of those things were mentioned. Certainly, the accessibility issue has been on our minds for many, many years. And it's not just getting in and out of this building. We could not serve a child in the little building that was in a wheelchair. So those are really important things to look at, and those will be things that we'll discuss with the architectural firms in detail. Storage, yes, always an issue. Your house, my house, our church. It's always an issue. So that will be how we make the office spaces and the connection between this building and the rest of the campus. It's not only accessible but efficient. So our spaces meet the needs of the people that are using them, or storage. So yes, absolutely. Thank you. Anyone else? And I'm going to roll this back to Ben. Thank you very much.
That was great, Laurie. Thank you very much. Okay. Worship Experiences Committee. So we've got some great team members that have been involved in this for the last year. Noel, William Schenecker, Father Nathan, David Sinden is also on it, Ann, Caitlin, Charlie, Jeffrey Carter, and myself. And our goals are twofold. First of all, put more people in the pews, and then secondly, embrace radical, gracious hospitality. What is that? We're figuring that out. So we're working in three primary areas, and I'm going to start with the right hand of this page first. So we're putting together what we call a newcomer welcoming multi-step follow-up process. Okay, what does that mean? Well, it means that we are trying to figure out a way to meet someone as they come to our church the first time and go through a process at the end of which they would become solid members in our church. So what are those steps? We are defining those at this point, but I can tell you that it starts with a program we call the Peter's Greeters Program, which is going to start next Sunday, and we'll have one greeter at the 8 o'clock service, 2 in the 10:30 service. You can tell who they are by their name tags. Got a nice little welcome on the top with their name, St. Peter's Greeters under that. And the other thing that they have access to, and you do, by the way, on their tables, there are these business card looking things, not on your table, okay. Sorry, Reverend. Nobody was sitting here. At any rate, as you can tell from looking at them, it basically gives you a little bit of information about St. Peter's, where we are, with a QR code that goes directly into our website. And so people can use that to get any information they need about the church. And then on the back, it says, my name is, and you put your name in there, and your email address and phone number. And you can give that to somebody who wants additional information about the church. And by the way, this is not just for greeters, this is for anybody. If you want to use this as a way to invite your friends to church, this would be a way to do that. So, Peter's Greeters Program, tied to that multi-step follow-up process, will be a newcomer orientation event, which at this point we're thinking might be a rector's forum, a quarterly rector's forum, where we welcome newcomers and also give them information on how do we worship, why do we worship, what are our beliefs, finances maybe. So just general information that would be updated on a quarterly basis would be certainly of interest to newcomers, but would also be interesting to parishioners too. So it would be interesting to everybody, and an opportunity to formally welcome newcomers into our parish. Mentoring option would be available as part of that multi-step process. We've talked about realm. What's our realm strategy? Where our realm strategy is going to start with newcomers, making sure that as they become more and more involved in our church, that they're tied into realm and they understand what realm is. And then there will be a tracking system that goes through each one of those steps and basically gives us an opportunity to say, was that accomplished? If so, when, who did it? And then kind of follow it along so that we're sure that every one of our newcomers has an opportunity to participate in the process. Any questions on that? Because that's a lot of words, and I'm not gonna I'm not gonna show you the process because I don't know what it is yet. But we are well into Father Nathan, Janet, Jacqueline, Caitlin, and I have been working on it for several months. Yes.
So can you define a newcomer? I mean, I'm new. I'm curious, how do you define that person? Is it somebody that showed up in the last year?
Well, to me, it's anyone who has come to the church for the first time as a visitor and continued to come until they get to the point where they are a member of the church. Some people would say that's when they fill out the newcomers form. I think there's a form which you can fill out. Others would say it's when you start, giving to the church. I don't know what it is. We're going to be pretty flexible with our definition on that. Yes, Dudley.
I think what he's asking is, he says that he's a newcomer, and I think you've been here about a year or so, right?
No.
No, not that long.
Months.
But you've been involved
December.
since then. You've been involved since then.
Yeah.
But I think it ought to continue a little bit longer, so you sound to be a member, but making sure that there's an ongoing
Yes.
connection.
Yes, I agree.
Okay.
I think that newcomers, there's a difference between a newcomer who's
At the
been
door.
an Episcopalian for like 30 years
Yeah.
and somebody who's coming off, who not familiar with Episcopal service.
So different types of people.
Right,
And the difference between a visitor and a newcomer, I think that's
right.
important.
Yeah, and visitors in my mind are people that have come here the first time, pretty much.
Right.
Okay.
Hey, Ben. So.
Yes, Allan.
Have you all discussed at all, similar to welcoming newcomers, also maybe reaching out to people who are on the rolls of the church, but who we just never see?
We'll be here when they die.
For their funeral? No, we have not gotten into those details, but that's a good idea. Okay, on the left side, communications, we've got a new guy that's working communications for us. Excellent, is in the process of updating. Yes, the website will be updated, and they tell me it'll be done by September. So we're working with him to make sure that there, for instance, there's going to be a visitors portal in the website. So visitors have one place they got to click on to get the information they need. So, and I'm sure Allan's going to be working on the same thing for outreach and maybe welcoming spaces too. So it'll be a great tool for all of us. And we use tremendous chances now, I think, to communicate with the Friday News from the Rock is great. Sunday bulletins, rectors forums. I just showed you the welcoming cards that we've got for people to hand out. Those are the things that we're working on communications wise. And then we're also looking into improving our hospitality by getting a guy named Reverend Steve Lawler, who's kind of an expert on hospitality, both in churches and in the hospitality industry. And we're working with him to figure out how best to instill a feeling of hospitality within our church. So that's pretty much what this committee is doing. Any questions on that? Any other questions? Okay. Spec Connects. Okay, this is Peter Baumgarten's committee, and Peter unfortunately is up in Chicago this weekend and couldn't join us, but he gave me a lot of information about what they're doing. This is their committee. Two new members, Jane Ann Batcher and Sid Alloway, are the newest members on that committee, plus Father Zach, Jacqueline, John. Where's John? Was here. Oh, there he is. Anyway, you can see all the members on that team. Key insight. The first thing they did is they took what the visioning committee gave them and looked at it and said, how do we feel about it? It's a different set of eyes looking at information. And what they said was, we don't believe that St. Peter's needs any new programming. They need to look at the timing of the current program, better communicating about it, and better supporting the offerings that we have, the programs that we have. And so they did an evaluation, a survey, and came up with that response. Okay, so what does that mean? The other thing they found is there are program gaps. And this is a bit of an eye test, and I can't even read it from here. Let's see. Okay, so the top one is a new member mentoring program, which will be part of what we're working with Worship Experiences. Next is young families group, more activity for young families, better communicated. And then down below you'll see several areas that are they felt are really well handled, like faith education. Okay, they're saying no, let's just sustain what we already have. And then the next one down, Bible study. We already have Bible studies, and it's available to everybody. So let's not reinvent that wheel. But the two partials you'll see here, young adult gatherings and family dinners, are two others. So the real focus is going to be on those four items there. Any questions on that besides what does it say? Okay. So they have 4 pillars to their engagement that they're focused on: communication, leadership, programming, and welcoming it. And I'm going to talk a little bit about each one of those, what they mean by that. So under communication, the key idea is to make it easier for people to identify what programming is out there and when it is, and what, who's that programming for? Who's it intended for? And one of the things they want to do is put a 3-month calendar out there so that people can better plan their lives a little bit further out. Questions on this? Leadership. For any given program, clarify who's responsible, who owns it, so that none of these programs fall through the crack. So you can read the rest of that, hopefully. Any questions on this? Okay. Programming. Deepen the engagement for the 2 underserved groups they're most concerned about: young adults and working families. And so one idea they have, and that we're beginning to look at, is a dinner series tied to liturgical calendar, starting with 5 anchor events. So we already have about 5 dinners that we have in the church year. So make it stronger, communicate better. If we want families to be able to attend, of course, we need to be sure we have a nursery, child care program with that event, those sorts of things. The other thing they're looking at is a neighborhood-based geographic connection series. And also, I mentioned earlier, childcare is important if you want families to be there. So, the thing that they came upon is how do we strengthen what we already have so that more people in the parish can take advantage of it. Programming 2, another idea that's beginning to come out of activities with the clergy and the staff, is the idea of taking a look at this time that we have between church services and better utilize that. I know one thing that we see time and again, shake somebody's hand and say, "Are you a new member?" No, we've been here for 20 years. They've been here longer than we have. And it's because we've got a gap between the 8 o'clock service folks and the 10:30 service folks. And so this may give us an opportunity to better address that gap and bring the entire parish together. So an idea, it is still being worked. Any questions about this? Comments? You need some better glasses? I know you can't read this. And it's really not that important that you can. So Holy Eucharist there, Holy Eucharist there. We're going to have breakfast, and then we're going to have different activities that people might attend, classes or whatever. So instead of one rector's forum, it might be multiple. So still an idea in work. And then the last thing was welcoming, formalize the path from first visit to belonging, and I've already talked to you a little bit about that. Worship Experiences Committee is working on that particular one. So we're launching Peter's Greeters next Sunday. It's going to be kind of soft opening through the summer. Summer's going to be interesting because the sanctuary is going to be closed sometime in July for work on the floor. So, and who knows how long that'll be. I mean, we know we have a schedule. We have a schedule. But I think it's going to be even more important that we have a couple of extra welcoming folks out there to help direct people down here, because this is where the church service will eventually be after the upstairs closes. Yes?
How long is it expected to be?
Can you repeat the question so we can hear it?
Okay, so how long is it expected to be? Janet?
Scheduled for about 4 to 5 weeks, 5 weeks minimum. So first we'll cover the organ, and then we'll refinish the floors and repair the floors, and then uncover the organ. So hopefully we kick off this project on July 13th, and hopefully we'll be back in by the end of August.
Any other questions? Yes,
Go
Dudley.
back to your first slide, please.
I think I'd have the technology.
Okay, communication is what I'm looking for. Maybe it's the second one there.
There you go. Okay.
What I'm concerned about is that depending on the group, the print media, the technology media, and then the calendar kind of stuff. And I think I wish we would consider a broader way of communicating. I mean, like, for instance, I stop and read the Ranford Child sign, or if there was something in the elevator, I'd read it. Every entrance to me ought to have something dynamic about what we're doing, or join us for this kind of thing. And I think we're so busy, and I'm thinking about it being in a similar format, that it looks good, it's not just Scotch tape on the wall, but some vehicle that would carry our propelling of our building and programs, but also communicate. People stop all the time and read stuff, and I just don't think we think about that all the time.
Okay, good comment, and I'm going to repeat that.
Question about communication.
Yes. So I think what I heard you say is we need to broaden it from the digital world and put more printed information out there in entrances, elevators, et cetera, so more people will have a chance to understand what's going on.
If you say go to your phone for more information, but at least it lets you know this program's going on.
Yeah. Okay. Good point. I think the other consideration has been to maybe put a couple flat screens up in various places that can be read. So, yeah. Yes.
I'd like to completely agree with what Dudley said, because the problem with electronics is that it is dependent upon you picking up that electronic device and going to a site.
Yes.
A piece of paper lying on a table is there for you to look at.
Or on the wall, I stop.
Yeah, or on the wall. Whatever you do, it's in
At the door.
vision, it's there. I can't tell you the number of times I've gotten an email that I saw 2 days later that for some reason I missed, and oh my gosh, call to action. It's not a good situation.
Okay. Got it. Thanks. Any other comments, questions?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Allan, over to you. You know how it works, this thing.
So, good morning, everybody. First of all, just wanted to say that I was given the chance to join the outreach committee about earlier this year. So I'm a newbie to outreach, but I'm really excited about it. It's something I'm very passionate about. St. Peter's has a culture of caring, and the outreach committee is really trying to build on this culture as we go forward. Hold on just a second. These allergies this morning are really getting me. Sorry about that. And I also want to just remind everybody that the parish, the parishioners have repeatedly said that outreach is something that's important to them. And we've seen this in survey after survey, going back to the survey that was done in advance of the Rector search, and up through the recent surveys as part of the strategic planning. So we know the parish has a great deal of interest in outreach. I think it's also important for everybody to recognize that having an external focus is a characteristic of a healthy parish, and we do have an external focus. So here's our steering committee. We've got 18 people involved right now, and it's growing. We're regularly looking for more people to join. We've got a number of people in the room this morning who are part of the steering committee. Jay Kanzler and Valerie Patton are our two clergy representatives, and Jacqueline is our staff representative. So we have broken down our priorities into short-term, which you'll see there are a number of them on the screen, and long-term, which I'll talk about in a minute. So the short-term goals are as follows. Number one, we want to develop an outreach strategic plan that will serve as a roadmap for us going forward. You might say, well, why didn't you have a strategic plan before you got going on everything? And it's just that we've got so much stuff going on that we didn't want to lose any of the momentum of what we're currently doing. So we are working on a strategic plan. The second short-term goal is better communication about the outreach events that we are currently sponsoring or involved with. Hopefully you all have started to notice some changes. We have an outreach section in the bulletin now each Sunday. Outreach is focused or is featured more on the news from the Rock, and you're starting to see more of the flyers like what's on your table this morning regarding the dinner coming up on Friday night. We're working to update the catalog of existing outreach partners. There are a number of them that the church has worked with over the years, and several of them we have a very extensive relationship with. We're looking to recruit additional parishioners. This core group is excellent and they are totally engaged, but we want to get more people active as well. We feel that if we can get people actively engaged in outreach, it's going to make them more active in other parts of the church as well. We are looking to, I'll say, finally build on our diocesan assigned partner parish. That's a lot of words there. But All Saints and Ascension is our partner church, our partner parish, as defined by the diocese. So we want to try and cultivate a closer working relationship with them. And I'll talk about one project that we will launch later this summer involving them. And we're looking to explore for new outreach opportunities. Our long-term goal is to find a God-sized dream project, something that will last well into the future and can have a very meaningful impact on making St. Louis a better place for all who live here. And we've had some conversations about that to date, but we're focusing again right now on those short-term goals, and we will get to this, and we'll keep you all informed as we make progress on that. I want to talk just briefly about some organizational activities since I became involved. So we've held 3 outreach steering committee meetings. That was in March, April, and in May. We invited James Clark. You all may remember him from one of the Rector's forums from the Urban League, came and joined us at our April meeting to talk about the importance of churches in rebuilding communities, especially in the urban core, and helped us brainstorm on some ideas on how we could get involved to help that effort. We included Bill Wilson. Bill was the consultant who helped us with the strategic planning process. Through a grant from the Eli Lilly Foundation, he has approached us about some largely complementary consulting services, and David and I agreed that outreach could be a great way for him to help us. So he will be assisting us as we develop the strategic plan for outreach. And I want to talk about some recurring activities and then some more one-time activities. So on a recurring basis, you all you've heard a lot about this. We've got a core group of people who are very active in the Trinity Episcopal food collection each month. You know, the Gilberts, Jim really has taken this on. And we've done just great work as a parish each year. Over the last several years, the amount of food that we've donated has gone up, and up. We also have a monthly participation in the St. John's Church Peace Meal. This is I've had the chance to do this a couple of times. It's a very rewarding experience, and would encourage you all, if you have interest, to sign up for that as well. Then we've got some recent activities. So we participated in the Trinity Episcopal Church annual foot cleansing and shoe event. This was back during the season of Lent. We participated in the Trinity Episcopal clothing drive, and we participated in the Trinity Episcopal hot lunch. And Dudley has really been a champion for the relationship with Trinity. And we have in spite of the fact that our diocesan assigned partner is All Saints and Ascension, we have a very strong existing partnership with Trinity that we want to continue to build off of as well. And then last weekend, we participated in the Urban League's large-scale food distribution event. We had about 12 volunteers from the parish were there. We had a lot of fun. It was pouring down rain the whole time, but it was a very meaningful experience. We provided food to 3,000 cars came through while we were there, and our job was to help put food in the trunks of these cars. And it was just a lot of fun. Not only the gratification of helping others, but the chance to work side by side with other volunteers, and other volunteers, frankly, that don't necessarily look or act like us. It's a very diverse group, and that was really part of the beauty of it. Okay, so just real quick, and I'll wrap it up. Future activities. This Friday, we've already talked about the Supper Club event. So Laura Franks, a member of the outreach committee, she brought this to us. We will be the first church to host the Welcome Neighbor event. They've done it at other organizations throughout the city, but they've never done it at a church. So we're the first one. We've got a handful of tickets still left, so please consider coming. It's a great way also to introduce new people to the church, so consider bringing a friend or a family member with you. Next thing that we're looking at is the Grill to Glory. This is every Saturday morning from 11 to 1. This is an Urban League sponsored program, but churches in the city, there are 300 churches now participating. They are grilling hamburgers and hot dogs on the street in front of their church idea is to kind of regenerate that sense of neighborhood in the areas around the church. All Saints in Ascension has participated in this over the last couple of years, but they've not had enough people to do it every Saturday. So we're working with them. We'll be looking for some volunteers. It will take 5 people for 2 hours on a Saturday morning. So if you like flipping burgers or roasting hot dogs, Sandy, I see you're licking your chops back there. We may be calling on you. And then the last thing I want to mention, that I'm working on trying to schedule a tour of, I'll say, the St. Louis urban neighborhoods, locations where we just typically wouldn't go. And it's a chance just to educate ourselves about what the challenges are, especially in the North City area of St. Louis. And we will also incorporate into that the chance to visit with some nonprofit leaders. So haven't formalized this yet, but it would involve us getting on a bus and going on a tour of our own city, which I think could be fun. Here are the benefits of participating in outreach. Let me get my notes here. Okay. Number one, the obvious one, it's the opportunity to live out the word of Jesus by helping those in need throughout the St. Louis community. It's a chance to work alongside other St. Peter's parishioners for a great cause. It's a chance to get to know some of your fellow parishioners better. It gives us exposure to nonprofit organizations in St. Louis who are helping make St. Louis a better place for all. And it's a chance to meet diverse volunteers from throughout the St. Louis community. Catherine.
Would it be of benefit if we had T-shirts with the St. Peter's logo on the front? Not necessarily anything on the back, but then people would see a group together and maybe ask questions about us.
Catherine asked the question of would it help if we had St. Peter's logoed T-shirts to use when volunteering. And Catherine, I promise, I didn't plant the question with Catherine. But this is something that I've actually had an initial conversation with Janet about. And yes, I think it would be fantastic to have volunteer T-shirts. And frankly, I think it would be great even outside of volunteers to have the option for people to buy like polo shirts with St. Peter's name on it. I think just all of that would just help get our brand out into the community. But thank you for saying that. And then the final thing is, if you're interested in getting involved, here's the call to action. Just give me a call or shoot me an email, and we'd be happy to put you to work. Ann.
Allan, I'm sure this is part of your consideration, but could you tell us a little bit about our ongoing support of Haven of Grace?
Ann asked about if I could comment on our ongoing support of Haven of Grace. And Ann, I can't really offer specific responses to that. However, one thing that I would like to do is to have Haven of Grace as one of the stops on this tour of urban areas this fall. We've got such a legacy, and I would say the Haven of Grace, the importance of this parish and individual parishioners to the formation and the ongoing activity of Haven of Grace, that's an example of a God-sized dream. And I think that's what I would like us to consider something like that going forward.
I'd love to see somebody from the Haven come and do a speaker's thing on Sunday morning, come to us and tell us.
Sally suggests that we bring someone from Haven of Grace to speak. I think that would be a great idea. This is coming from the lady who is largely responsible for the organization of Haven of Grace. So thank you for saying that. Any other questions? Yes.
Not so much a question, but especially with Jim right here. I know that there is a St. John's Peace Meal coming up, and we may still need volunteers.
Yes.
For that, June the 6th.
So there's a St. John's Peace Meal on June the 6th. June the 6th is a very, very important day in each year. Happens to be, it's my birthday. So it sounds like we still are looking for volunteers for the Peace Meal on that date. Anything else? I told David if he gives me a microphone, I don't like to give it up.
I'll give it back to Ben.
Well, I was going to give it to you, Reverend David.
Anything else from you? Allan, Laurie, and Ben, thank you all so much for bringing all of us up to speed on this exciting work. It is exciting, and I invite you to continue to look for ways not only to just applaud ourselves for what we're doing, as Ben said, in taking the initiative to implement this, but to look for some ways to be involved and to continue to share your thoughts and ideas as they come to you. Obviously, we can't do it all, but we can continue to try to be as faithful as we can in the things that we do feel like that God's calling us to do. So again, thank you, Laurie and Ben and Allan, and thank you all for being part of this, and God bless you.